Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Mysticons, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by April Collins.
Hello.
I'm Beatriz Mourad.
Hello.
Today, April, Beatriz, and I are talking episode 24 of Mysticons, The Edge of Tomorrows, that aired yesterday on Nicktoons. Mysticons is airing on Nicktoons Network at 8 a.m. on Saturdays. And we're covering it Sundays here on the Overly Animated Podcast. You can find us at overlyanimated.com or search for Overly Animated Mysticons on iTunes or YouTube and subscribe to not miss any of our future Mysticons podcasts. Very excited for getting into our finale episodes next week and the week after, but we'll talk about that at the end of the podcast. Right now, we're getting into The Edge of Tomorrows. Spoilers for this episode. Make sure you've seen this. This is a retelling of episode 1 of the show, kind of a meta retelling of the first episode. April, what did you think?
Well, I thought it was okay. I guess we kind of built it up to be a lot, or at least I had hoped that it was going to be so much more than it was, and then it wasn't. And I thought we would get a lot of backstory kind of stuff, but we literally just redid episode 1. Which, well, it was fun, don't get me wrong, but, and I liked all of, we got to see Binky go boom, and there was all of, those fun little lines, and, Mathis was great. I enjoyed him in this episode.
Mathis fan, wow.
A Mathis fan, yeah. And so it had some nice moments and everything like that, but again, I think that I'm more disappointed than I should be, because it's still a good episode, but it's fine.
It's fine. Okay. Beatriz, what do you think?
I enjoyed it more than last week. And simply because while April was talking, I was furiously trying to think about what actually happened last week because I just completely forgot about it. It just had no weight for me. It had no staying power for me whatsoever. So this week I enjoyed a lot more. I think I agree that they could have done a lot more with it. They did play it pretty safe, and I guess we can talk a little bit later about Piper and some of her dialogue, which I found frustrating. But beside that, I thought it was enjoyable. A trend I'm seeing with these filler episodes is that they're not. I don't know. I see filler as taking the time to actually explore character, and you see a little bit of that in here, but not with the complexity I want, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You said Piper with a negative tone, so that's unacceptable. Beatriz.
No, I mean, I like Piper.
Fave.
There's certain things about her dialogue this week that I just didn't appreciate.
Interesting. We'll talk about that. I thought this was a wonderful Piper episode. I agree with your general point that the quote-unquote filler episodes in this season 2 have not really advanced character or, mythology of the show or whatever, so that's why these maybe last 4 episodes have been a little frustrating for me. But I think Edge of Tomorrows is excellent. I think it is really good. It took me a second viewing to get there on this one because, like April, I was frustrated on first viewing that it was not. It didn't live up to our Discord speculations. Basically, we're it's going to go through 10 different timelines. They're going to be different Mysticons. Wayne's going to be a Mysticon, and Liz
that would have been great.
We were way too ambitious with our, and it's not the episode's fault. So we were way too ambitious with our speculation here. I have potential problems with this episode conceptually. I'm not sure why we needed this at this point of the show. But given that we did it, I think that this is actually one of the most flawlessly executed episodes of the show, overall. I think it's really, really wonderful. It's just, every single event or line of dialogue in this episode is purposefully a retelling of the first episode, but in a different way, a meta joke on the show, or some other character thing for Piper. Everything is just it seems so meticulous, and I really think this is a great example of why this is genuinely why Mysticons is genuinely one of the best shows on TV, because it can execute this episode so well. And I think this is a great episode. It's kind of unexciting, so that's the main thing we have to get past, but I'll lay out a bunch of evidence and try to convince you guys that this is a good one. That being said, I'm very ready to get to the finale finale episodes next week.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been, but that being said, let's give Edge of Tomorrow's its due. And I think the main thing is that if you have not seen episode 1 since it aired, and I fortunately had rewatched episode 1 at some point in the previous month or two, a lot of things aren't going to click here from this episode. But basically what we do is we go through Piper, and we go through her, like, trying to subvert the events of the first episode. Like, we start off with her not wanting to rob from the, weird cat guy, because that would have, in theory, triggered all of the events of episode 1 to happen the same way, and Piper's trying to not be a Mysticon. And we just, we go through different things. I feel like the scene that's most emblematic of this being a retelling of the first episode is when they're in, like, the treasure room with the dragon disc is initially. And, Zarya and Piper are literally watching the events of episode 1 happen, from the side. So, like, and that's kind of the only scene that happens in that specific way. But it's really interesting to take this, specific approach. I mean, it's not like this has never been done before, I guess, but, I feel like this is kind of high level storytelling, that we're going back and commenting on, a previous episode in such a specific way. What do you think of that, April? Were you impressed at all in that regard?
Yeah, it was, I guess it was just kind of interesting because, they, like, followed the events of the first episode, like, sort of closely, because usually in, like, episodes like this, like, everything goes off the rails, which is what we kind of expected. But I liked that, like, Piper was just sort of very, like, in tune with what was going on, and she was like, oh no, like, I have to go get Her Majesty, and, like, and everything like that. And then even still, like, she couldn't prevent everything. So I do agree that it was very well executed. And, you know, we got to see, like, I guess our characters as they previously were. Like, I enjoyed, like, Zarya being like, your imagination's, like, overactive and, like, everything like that.
Yeah, that's a great point in seeing the characters from before. I think one of the times the episode really, really clicks is when, M is like, I'm no hero. I haven't been in a fight before. I've never even been in an argument before. And then she, like, bails. And it's like, wow, this is how M was before. That's awesome. I think if maybe the episode had been slightly stronger if it had more of that type of stuff. But, I think they handled M really well there.
Even, like, I like that they took the time to sort of point out, like, how Zarya and Arcana, like, their, I guess, relationship, how it's, like, so different than it was too. Like, Zarya is just like, oh, that pampered princess, like, everything like that. And it's like, that is not how you feel about her anymore. So I kind of like that going into the finale, we're sort of getting that, like, pushed back onto us a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So
feels very different from the constant Zarya Arcana intimate moments we've been getting the previous episodes, right?
Yes.
It's almost like they're building to something here. Yeah.
Weird.
We'll talk about that. But, yeah. Beatriz, what do you think of this? What we've been talking about. I don't know what the question was, but yeah.
I don't know if I would consider it high level storytelling, just because they did kind of play it a little safe. This is it wasn't 100% a refreshing take on this type of story. I think they did it well. I think what frustrates me of the episode, and again, frustrated seems like a harsh word. I'm making it seem like it's my feelings are more negative than they actually are, but just to explain, I just feel like the episode in scope was pretty small. They weren't really knowing what they can do with an episode, knowing the highs of how much they can play with, like, a specific story. I don't think that they were very ambitious with this one. I think they played it pretty safe, and within the scope of what they were doing, it works. But knowing what they can do, I was just a little disappointed that they didn't. It felt like they were giving it like a 70%. And saving up energy for the finales. Like, they're just like, okay, we got to get this episode in, and this isn't an important episode, so we're not going to give it our all. And that's how it felt watching it, which isn't a great feeling as a viewer, knowing what they can do. Because even though it's not unrealistic, you'd want someone to give it their all in every episode, even though that might be unrealistic because it's hard. But
so I agree that it, like, came across that way on first viewing, but I think that's unfair given that, like I said, everything in this episode is so meticulously done. Like, I think the scope of it is limited, but I definitely want to separate the concept from the execution. Like, I actually do think this is one of the more, I do think they gave it their all, on the execution level of this episode. And, I got that sense more so than, an episode in a long time from this show.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I said, like, within the scope of what they did it really well. I just think that they could have done so if it was gonna be such a limited scope, then I feel like they should have done something a little bit more like, okay, let's explore like who these characters were before this, instead of just very much focused on Piper. Not that I have a problem with Piper, it's just because it was so much about Piper being like, no, I'm not a hero. I don't want to be a hero. But suddenly, I'm actually, no, surprise, I want to be a hero again. And it's kind of, I feel like it was just a bit too, it's fine. It was fine. It wasn't incredible, but I think there's
it's kind of a typical,
little simplistic.
Yeah.
I think is my issue.
Yeah, a simplistic character take on Piper, and that she was, her arc in this episode. We'll table the Piper talk for a second. I think we're in dire need of a Piper episode. So, like, I think that, like, we really.
I think we need a real Piper episode. I feel like a lot of the Piper episodes that we get are kind of like this. You know what I mean? Like, we're not really like sort of hardcore like divulging into her character and who she is and what her backstory is and how she came to sort of be here. More so, I mean, we had the one episode in the caves and everything like that, but that just was very like one episode, and we barely like scratched the surface.
Right. And that's why, like, that's exactly why that's my reservations for this episode. It's like, if you're gonna make a Piper episode, and this is what we get, I don't like, this is not the Piper episode she deserves as a character.
Yeah, so I agree. I really, really need to see another Piper backstory episode. Episode 8 is as April was referencing, is like the big Piper one. We saw like flashbacks and her having kind of almost PTSD almost. And like, we really need to get into that. It's a little upsetting we haven't in the season 2, but I also think this type of episode is very valid. And I think this is a great Piper episode on its own. I guess we can get into this more now because we're already on the topic. We do need to see more of Piper's history. We learned in episode 11 that she was in the circus at some point in the 100 years she's been alive. I'd love to see that. Who are Piper's parents? Like, what Piper has lived the longest life up to this point? Stuff like that. But I do think this was a great focus of her having more, I guess, agency within the group, her having more you get more of a spotlight. Her like Beatriz was talking about, goes from she was fed up with everything, and then she regains the drive to be a Mysticon at the end. And I think that was all really well handled. I do think it's kind of narrow in scope, and it's a little bit of a simplistic character take, but I really, really do like what we got. Here's the biggest thing, is that this episode, by referencing episode 1, I think it's a great idea to do it from Piper's perspective, because Piper is the character that is potentially the most different from the first episode now. And my favorite parts of this episode are that we are aware that Piper was more of a meme character in the first episode than she is now. This episode is like very aware of that. Piper says sad face emoji again in this episode, the classic line from the first episode. She says it in a sad way this time, sad face emoji. And it was wonderful. We also had Mathis saying swagalicious, which is it's been a long time, but the multiple characters on the show said swag in the first 4 episodes, and we have since not said that. Like, we've kind of reined in that type of language, and it's like Piper viewing this past self. It's almost like Piper's matured a lot, and even though that is a very meta commentary on them dialing back Piper's I guess modernness, or their attempts at that. I do also think it reflects her character growth, and that she's, she is a kid and she's matured a lot, and her being a hero has really helped her along. What do you think about that, April?
No, I agree. I think that's kind of maybe the point that this episode was maybe almost trying to make, in the fact that at the beginning of the episode, she's almost kind of bratty in the way that she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm super frustrated. I'm just essentially going to have a fit and wish that this never happened. And then as in the beginning, as she's sort of reliving that day, to me, she's very nope, I don't want to touch this. But then she because she cares about, Zarya, Arcana, and everyone else, she just throws herself back into it, like almost like she wasn't expecting to, and she tries to pull herself out of it too, because she's like, nope, we're not going to do that. And she's like, okay, fine, I guess I'm going to go save Zarya so she doesn't fall off the tower. Like, and then she's like, oh, I have to go save Her Majesty. Oh, I have to go save Arcana. Like, she like unknowingly is the hero that she's always kind of been. And that's the impression that I got from it, is that like she can't escape it. It's very like, what is it? Like, you can't escape your destiny kind of thing. Like, because no matter what you tried to do, she still found herself back into the place that she was, previously.
Yeah, and I think it's really fulfilling to see Piper at the end come back into the same moment and then just own it and save everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
it was just all she's capable of that the whole time. It was just more of a confidence thing with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Beatriz, what do you think?
I mean, I love that moment at the end. And let me put like just a little like bookmark in that we need to talk about these powers and their consistencies, but because we need to talk about them and we need to talk about Necrophos. We need to talk about it. But I really did enjoy that. I enjoyed that it was more of a confidence thing. I just wish there was more time of her resisting it. It just seemed like she was just so quick to get back into it, despite being like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I wanted more of her slowly getting frustrated. Again, this is maybe also a problem with like the time limit. There's only so many minutes. But I did wish that maybe she had been a bit more like, no, I'm going to ignore this. I'm just going to keep like, I don't want to fall back into the, like, I don't know. The fact that I don't know, just immediately from the get-go, there's a moment where like it falls right back. I guess it's the problem of them just going straight back into episode 1 and her trying to prevent everyone from going down that path. I would have rather preferred it be less obvious and more internal. If that makes any sense. More of her emotionally getting slowly more frustrated with herself. Of no, I can't do this. I can't. I don't know if this is making any sense.
It was just kind of there. There wasn't a lot of surrounding framing for her.
Right. It made it seem like she didn't have a choice in the matter. It was just kind of like, this is destiny, this is going to happen, and you just kind of have to embrace it. And the timeline just fighting against her into writing itself. Where I would have, because it also, again, not 100% clear if this is actually her going back in time or just some like vision or spell thing. And like there is now an alternative timeline where she was there and now she's gone. Like, I'm not 100% sure where this goes. I don't know if this is like some weird like flash vision thing or if it was an actual like, no, now there's an alternate timeline where she changed things. And I don't know where the old Piper of that timeline went. It gets complicated with time travel. But point is that I kind of wanted more of her, it being her choice rather than it being destiny, if that makes any sense. I wanted more of her being like, no, I don't want to do this. And then slowly coming into the realization, like, I do, instead of just being like, I have to because destiny's pushing me toward this, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I think Piper almost backs into like having to become Mysticons again. It's like, it's just the universe working against her and she's like not able to successfully subvert the timeline. And that's just kind of, she just kind of incidentally gets there. But, it's about like her gaining her confidence back and wanting to become a hero again all throughout that. I get what you're saying though. Did Piper kill the original Piper when she went into that timeline?
What happened?
Or kill that timeline's Piper? Yeah, that's I don't think the episode should have commented on that. Like, it's if we're doing a narrow in scope timeline thing, then there's no need to get into the specifics. This is the type of thing that will frustrate some people, though. You can't. Do you just replace the original Piper? Did she pop back in when our Piper left again?
That's why I think it's like this was like some vision. It wasn't that she actually went back in time. It just seems like she did, and there was just something.
No, exactly. I think she definitely hit timeline hopped. I mean, I think that happened.
I don't know. I just think like if she did, it just gets a lot more complicated because it's suddenly like, okay, did the things in the first episode stay the way they are, or are we now, or is this the new first episode now? If that makes any sense. Like, did Arcana ever get like bone stuff? And is her mother?
I think these are parallel timelines, and they did not intersect. Piper just hopped onto the different one and then hopped back on the show's timeline. It's still the same, I think. Like, Arcana was not boned in that. That was just on that. We'll never see that thing again. What happened when, Arcana was boned and deboned and what's going to happen there.
I want one of those moments where, like, Piper, like, refers to it, like, in a later episode and everyone's like, what? That didn't happen.
That'd be good. Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the concept of the episode because, Beatriz, I think, was talking about how this, is potentially narrow and simplistic in concept. And my initial reaction is to agree, but I'm going to say, let's compare this to the, kind of the prototypical meta episode for our generation, animation meta episode, which is Ember Island players from Avatar: The Last Airbender. My thing is this episode actually more simplistic than Ember Island players? And all Ember Island players did was just retell events in a play setting and comment on them. You know, like, isn't that episode also not really doing that much? Because that episode is just, saying, oh, haha, that happened, and here it is happening again, and it's funny. Although it was wonderful, obviously. But this episode is actually like, showing us past things and then having our character interact with it and things changing and things happening in slightly different ways. I found that a little bit ambitious, at least. What do you think, Beatriz?
Not to say that this type of storyline isn't ambitious, but I think unlike, say, Ember Island, I think unlike Avatar and how they dealt with it, that wasn't something that we often see at least in animation, where we just get there's a similar thing in Kill la Kill, and I know that Dylan, you haven't seen it, but there's a similar moment, you know, that in anime there's this there's that episode that is similar to Ember Island. It's like it's this like pass through everything that's happened so far in like a recap episode essentially. And the thing with Avatar is that they did the recap episode in a very creative way, which was very ambitious. In Kill la Kill, they start doing the recap and then they just go, you know what? They do it in 1 minute and then they tell a new episode, which is not what you expect. And that was another way of subverting it. And then with this, it's like, you know, the iconic comparison would be like, you know, like Back to the Future or Back to the Past or whatever that movie's called, where, you know, it's like playing with time. And there's a similar with these playing with timeline, going back to the past stories, there is already a set language that we're familiar with. And this episode didn't necessarily do something inventive or unique in playing with that language that we're already familiar with these type of stories. It told the story and it told it well, but in terms of, oh, it's super complicated and super unique, I wouldn't say go that far, because there's already this established way of telling this story. And so all these like little like, oh, they had to really think this through. It's like, well, there's already this formula here already planned out for them from previous stories of different forms of storytelling that have already done it. And it just kind of felt like, okay, like I'm familiar with this type of storytelling. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. And they did it well, not to say that it was badly done, but just it wasn't 100% unique or revolutionary in that sense.
It very much fell. It kind of played by the playbook of Back to the Future or similar storylines. I agree. This this episode, despite being seemingly unique in a meta commentary in a past episode, it's something that's definitely been done by a lot of other properties. April, you agree?
I agree. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't hate it. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't frustrate. I mean, I had frustrating moments and everything like that, but it left, like, I enjoy Back to the Future. It's one of my favorite movies. And so I didn't even, like, think about it, like, watching this, that I was like, oh, this is Back to the Future, but Mysticons. Like, I didn't, I guess, put, like, that 2 and 2 together kind of thing. So, and I mean, there was enough, I guess, difference between this episode and the first episode, because that's essentially what we're comparing it to, in that, like, made it, I guess, different and, like, made it nicely executed. Like, I don't know.
Not to say that this is the same as Back to the Future. I'm just using an example of like we've had stories. Like
it's not revolutionary. Yeah, we've done this type of.
It's not before. Revolutionary, but it's not. I'm not like mad about it. Does that make sense? Like,
all episodes are tropey to a certain extent. You know, like this is it's not a super specific criticism to this episode.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like it's not a trope that I'm like what is it? We talk about this. I think in like Miraculous sometimes how things get super tropey and it's like oh my gosh it's frustrating how tropey it is, but like this is like. Despite it being, you know, like we've done this before with other shows and movies and whatever, I'm not frustrated by it. So I guess I can't really complain. Like, yeah, it's simple in regards to like we're just reliving the first episode and we're just ending essentially back up where we started. But I'm just not upset about it.
Yeah, I'm also not upset. I'm upset. Let me talk my conceptual qualms. It's not with this episode, which aren't that it's been done before, although I think that's very valid from Beatriz. My biggest thing is that this show is much better now than it was in episode 1. Not that episode 1 wasn't good. It was a very strong start, but the show has gotten a lot better. And I think there's something to be said for not going back to a time when the show was worse. Like that's maybe a mistake to revisit when, you weren't as good of a show. Like that, so that's my first potential conceptual thing. My second is that, I don't think now was maybe the time to do it, in a time where, and I know obviously we're not going to be aware of this, you know, writing the second season, but it's turned out that we've been a little bit frustrated that more things haven't been happening, I guess. So, like certainly now's not the time for that, given that. Also maybe, your third season's maybe more appropriate for when to do the meta commentary. Maybe we'll have an even bigger meta episode in the third season, which I'd love. But, you know, I don't think it functions that well given where we are in the series. And I don't know if it's a great idea to revisit episode 1. Agree, disagree?
I think it just depends on what happens next kind of thing, because like I was kind of saying earlier, it was kind of nice to kind of like have that comparison to be like, oh, this is how it was and look at where we are now in terms of like who the characters are, like how much like their relationships have developed and how the stories sort of progressed. And I mean, we've come like such a long way, and I think that if that comparison can mean something going into like the season finale, then I think that might be worth it. But I agree that it's sort of like misplaced amongst the episodes. And I guess
I think you had the best example of it being worth it, like that I hadn't even thought of with the Arcane Azaria comparison to see how they were versus how they are now.
Yeah, like I guess that's kind of like the grain of salt that I'm taking with this episode, being that it's, you know, it's taking place during the third season. Cause I totally agree that like, it's odd for it to be here in the second season as we're just about to go into like some huge major events and things like that. Like, so I agree with it. So I guess I just want this to be worth it. That's all that it would, I want.
Yeah, I agree. I have a few other potential ways it could play in, which is one is seeing Dreadbane. If we're going to see Dreadbane / Reginald back for the finale. I think that's, it's an interesting reminder of what it used to be if he's turning into something else. And also, we saw a Necropolis world versus a Necropa-filled world. That was one of the biggest comparisons. It's the, Necropa alert versus the city's, perfectly safe. So, that's a potential omen of something happening with Necropa. Like, I do think this episode will function better once we've seen what's happening to come. More on that when we get into some speculation, I guess. Okay, but let's go through all the stuff that we there's a lot of notable things to go through from the episode, and we're already pretty far in. So yeah, like I was talking about at the beginning, so let's do the point by point recap of the episode. We had the Drake City at Shield Con level 3. It's Necropa alert 24/7, says Piper.
Report any suspicious undead. That was my favorite.
my big thing is, where was this the past 10 episodes? Weren't we on Necropa alert? Like, this is what
we're only taking it seriously now.
This is my problem with season 2. Necropa is out and nobody seems to care, but this episode remembered. I like this. This reminded me of, it's not worth getting into, but something in Ladybug season 2, it's like, Akuma alert. Everyone, go into hiding. It's like, oh yeah, I like just, cities being prepared for, weird, mystical events. I think that's a good trope. But they're fighting off, it's like a Tasma shadow minion, then it turns into, it portals in Necrofa and Tasma. And this is what Necrofa should have been doing for the past 5 episodes, is just, randomly popping up and nabbing the princess, and she hadn't, but, as she takes it into her own hands now, because Tasma was failing. So
but Tasma's still there. She's really like concerned about nabbing Chaco, which I thought was great.
So she's learned her lesson. Chaco can mess things up here. Tasma says it's the thieves who tricked me with the fake dragon disc, which is like such a specific reference to episode 1, but then it makes sense when we talk about episode 1 for the rest. Piper wishes they weren't Mysticons. Back to the original timeline, or back to the episode 1, and there's Binky, where we excited to see Binky again.
Binky go boom.
Yeah. Forgot about Binky, probably.
How did Zarya stop Binky from going boom the first time?
Yeah.
Maybe a switch or something, like really, in the ear.
Kind of just stopped, but it's fine.
It found Zarya. It was comforted.
it was comforted by Zarya. I like that.
You would have preferred like Binky, no, and then there.
Yeah, I don't know what the off switch was. I think Sentient Binky is the way to go. But, we had Zarya saying, Mystica who now? Classic episode 1 reference. I like that.
Yes.
That was, we got
a Piper dance.
Yeah, Piper dancing. Yeah, that was good. Piper's like, there's no way I'm going down that road again. I like that Piper's immediately aware that stealing from the cat would send us back down the events of episode 1. Piper's very aware and smart in this episode, which I do really like. Then her solution instead of stealing is to have a pie eating contest at Sky Pies with a troll dude. This was very random. This is maybe the most random thing. I was
really confused by that whole I was like, wait, how did we end up here? I don't because in my head, we were going back through episode 1, and I was like, but why are we at Sky Pies right now?
Seems like a loose association, yeah. But one of my favorite parts of the episode is seeing Mathis with his blue Chaco.
Yeah.
And, it's like Mathis takes the role of Zarya in this episode, and I love blue Chaco. Evil Chaco. Would evil Chaco and regular Chaco get along?
Yes.
Yes?
No. I think they wouldn't. I think Chaco would just not have it. He's like, there's only room for one.
Yeah,
and
Chaco's,
you are not it.
Chaco's a little, he no spotlight away from Chaco, no room for a second Chaco. They were running their con with Gawain. I thought that was great. We'd been dying for a Gawain Mathis interaction, and we finally got it. So
and it was wonderful.
That's only half sarcastic, but yeah, we wanted to see Gawain about this. And Zarya makes a copy of his key, copy of the copy.
Also, it was extremely kind of Mathis to invite Zarya and Piper to go rob, the palace. I enjoyed that. He's just like, you guys want in on this? Let's go.
Is this Mathis's best episode of the series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I kind of hate Mathis, but he was fine in this episode. Yeah.
And he was throughout he was there through the most of the episode, which I really enjoyed as well. Totally random. He's just here because who knows why.
kept waiting for it to be like the Mysticons plus Mathis minus Arcana.
Yeah.
But no, we don't. No different Mysticon shenanigans on this timeline. There's a pizza fort with Piper.
Pepperoni windows.
Yeah, typical Piper humor. Yeah. Piper recognized Zarya's in danger, so I have to follow her to the palace. Parallel to episode 1, so Piper stops Zarya from falling off this time. I think it was reversed in episode 1, and also Piper says, "Get your human butt in there," which episode 1, Zarya says, "Get your elf butt in." We had, so that was good. We also had the classic, gold dive, which the DuckTales gold dive. Chaco tries it this time instead of Piper. And, Zarya says, you thought that was going to be way more fun, didn't you? What do we think of Chaco taking the gold dive instead of Piper? I thought that was one of the highlights.
I thought it was cute.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it's gold is hard. You shouldn't be able to just dive straight in.
Yeah, that was the episode 1 joke. It was great. Yeah. So we're doing it again here. We talk about watching the events in the treasure room from episode 1. And this time Mathis is the guard instead of Piper and Zarya. and he says this place is swagalicious. We see the Queen Goodfey talking to Novaterran. I don't think we saw this in episode 1.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think this is the type of thing that's really cool. We saw what was behind the scenes because it would have given away too much because we needed to see the big Novaterran introduction in episode 2 and stuff. But we saw behind the scenes, the Queen called Novaterran and he sent two of his most talented astromancers.
Dun dun dun.
I liked that Piper was she just didn't tell Malveron that Tasma's going to betray you kind of thing. Like she just very much hinted at it the entire time. Like,
we'll talk about that later. Know her?
Yeah. Piper knocks out Queen Goodfey with some flour to prevent her from being turned to bone. I thought that was quick thinking by Piper. I don't know if I would have thought of that. And instead, Arcana gets turned to bone.
Someone else had to be turned to bone.
Yeah, that's how Destiny works. Someone else had to be turned.
They come in pairs of 2.
Yeah. Do we think this could be another potential finale parallel? Do you think that we are hinting at the King and Queen finally getting deboned in the next 2 episodes?
No.
No, because they have to stay boned forever. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad we're very optimistic about their chance.
We haven't talked about it
It would be very random, yeah.
It would be super random for us to talk about it again. So, and I'm okay with us not talking about it because I remember just being really frustrated at the beginning of season 2 and the end of season 3 because all Arcana wanted to do was unbone her parents at the risk of the realm. So, I don't want to go back down that road.
We'll see. I could see it happening, but Mathis is the dragon disc, and we see the courtyard scene when they're first fighting with the Mysticons, as Mysticons, the 3 plus Mathis. Piper instead just has them all just jump off the ledge and call the Griffins, and Dreadbane's didn't see that coming.
I enjoyed that Dreadbane is still a terrible villain.
This episode definitely I think made the audience miss Dreadbane because he was very funny here, and I really miss funny Dreadbane from season 1. So hoping to see him in the finale. M just bails, and then I think she does it again, but later. But that Piper wants to undo the wish. It doesn't work. She says sad face emoji. Classic. That was the one must have. If you're going to do episode 1 again, you have to have sad face emoji again. And then we get Snorri Dude. We haven't talked about Snorri Dude, so we'll talk about him at the end. But he says, "Be the hero you were meant to be." And Piper figures out that she should have them all turn into Mysticons again. They go back to Rudik's Hollow. So it's the kind of episode 5 stuff happening. And Piper convinces them that she's from a different timeline by telling M that she loves Questka Knightley, hunky pirates, and has that mech suit. So
I mean, I'm kind of loving how Zarya's just, you know what, I believe you, because it just kind of shows that their bond is so tight that she just says, you know what, if you say that, I trust you. But at the same time, I just think, really, Zarya, she couldn't have convinced you a little bit more. She couldn't have tried a little bit more to convince you of this wild thing.
It took zero effort.
Yeah, 2 seconds ago you were talking about her imagination being too crazy, and now it's all okay. I mean, from the one hand, I appreciate it because it shows that their bond is so tight. From the other hand, it's really?
Yeah, it's more if she convinces M instead of Zarya. So, but I like that Zarya believes Piper. This is a very good Piper Zarya episode. And for their bond, which we hadn't gotten in a little bit. But, Piper says Dreadbane will be at Drake Central Station for the first piece of the Codex. Again, she's very on top of things. Piper's watched the show before. She knows what's happening. M says, I've never been in a fight before. I've never even been in an argument before. And she leaves, and they put Binky instead of the Codex piece. And Dreadbane says, also didn't see that coming, which is good. Bringing in Malveron, Tasma, and the Astromancers on the train. And
they had to bring the trains back.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of train action. We need more of that. And you guys talk about more do you know your sister? Love this exchange from the construction workers, the dwarf construction workers. Really been an MVP in the past few episodes. I'm hungrier than a diamondback crave crawler. You know what I'm saying? Nope. So the other one. And then there's guy number 1. Is it Foz season already? Nope. Nope. So call back to Foz season, and the second guy is not into anything. That's the first guy to say.
Nope.
Yeah, it was great. Tasma takes Dragon Disc, transforms, and Piper says, "Yeah, that's not so surprising the second time around." So that was good.
Yeah.
And Em back in her mech suit and throws Tasma into the dumpster. And yeah, Malvarant does see transform Tasma, so in theory he probably knows that she's evil. She's in her evil outfit, but not clear. Also, who cares? That's not our timeline. So, Piper transforms into Mysticons that frees Arcana, and basically Arcana's just really confused. That's kind of the highlight of this scene.
It was beautiful. She's like, "Who are you? I don't know what's going on. Still not sure what's happening."
Yeah, at the end she's like, "Still not sure what's happening." Yeah, that was great.
Piper's just like, "I love you guys."
Yeah,
I think that was my favorite moment of Arcana. She's just like, "What? Okay."
Yeah, it's good. That's Queen Goodfey when she's unboned. She's like, what? Necrophil was since when? I guess she saw. I guess she was briefly deboned in the season 1 finale. I guess so.
See, but that's what I want to see. That's why I want her deboned, is because I want to see how because she forgot about the other twin. So it's like, how is she going to react to all this? Like, is she going to...
Yeah, you probably have to debone her to have her react to the twin. Yeah, I think so.
That's going to be really interesting. So that's why I'm rooting for a deboned.
My biggest number, you debone the king and queen, and we need to see how Gawain reacts to not being king. That's my number one. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're sold. Do it we need the king and queen deboned. Okay, we're back on it.
And we'll get back into the secret identities thing, because they get deboned, and it's like, okay, well, Arcana, we have to meet the Mysticons and thank them. Arcana has to try and get out of it.
Yeah, well, she revealed to her parents. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, anyway, we're back in, Piper goes back. It's hero time. We talked about this scene, saves everyone. And, Snorri Dude at the end, may the Star of Gygax guide you on your quest, Mysticons, and he has these weird eyes.
Yes.
April, what do you think of the Snorri Dude's weird eyes?
Well, his eyes are weird, one, but yes. I'm led to believe that he's going to mean something to us later. Because,
right, that's the takeaway, is that this guy is important later.
But, who is he? Can I have more of that? Is he just, a fortune teller? What does he mean to me? Why does he have such eyes?
Why does he have such eyes? Yeah. Beatriz, what was your reaction to the eyes?
I mean, I thought, honestly, for me, the initial thing was, is he going to be evil? Is he on their side? I mean, I think he's on their side, but I mean, I could see him go bad. Who knows? So I'm not sure. And it also makes me think about how the Mysticons don't really care about revealing their identity to bystanders. I just think why, he knows now. He knows who they are. He must, right?
Yeah. Wow. Snorri Dude's going to betray them. Bold prediction.
I mean, who knows?
I don't know. I don't know what this guy is. We'll see in season 3, but yeah, don't know. I'm not in love with the unrelated foreshadowing for future events. But it's kind of cool, and it provides some stakes for an episode that's otherwise self-contained. His eyes to me looked like fish eyes, I guess.
Yeah.
So
ooh,
I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, he's the lost king of the Pearl Trident. That's the
third.
No, I don't think so. But
I'm down.
That's the only.
I was like, I bought it.
The only fish that we know of. So, will we have a Kelpie return in the season 2 finale?
Aw, probably not.
Oh, don't say probably. Don't crush my hopes. But okay. I had a fan theory of the week, but we got plenty of discussion out, so I'll save it. And let's just briefly talk about next week's episode, which is Twin Stars Unite. This is episode 25, 26. The way it worked in season 1 is that there were 2 big episodes at the end, and they weren't part 1, part 2, but they were both kind of big enough to be finale. So I don't know if this is going to really be part 1 of the finale, but it's it's our episode 12 of this season. And this episode is Twin Stars Unite. Next episode is The Dragon's Rage. Makes you the titles definitely make you think that the prophecy will be being fulfilled and that the spectral dragon will come out. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, unless they're gonna like throw us off somehow, but I can't imagine how.
Here's the description. Necrofa captures Proxima as she puts her master plan into action, forcing the Mysticons to launch a rescue attempt. And indeed, in the 2-minute preview clip we got, Proxima had already been captured. Necrofa already did that.
Well, Proxima, way to go.
Well, more like
what
more
about
anti-Yaga.
Like,
yeah, what happened to her?
How is it that Necrofa can beat this like god? Like, how does that work?
I think Antiago was probably sleeping, and that's all. Like, it doesn't. Antiago does not seem the most 100% determined, and I think she could be distracted.
You know what's gonna bug me?
I was gonna say.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
Oh, I was gonna say you almost like. I think we've talked about this before. How Anti-Yaga just kind of plays this like I'm very like out of this sort of like role because she's a demigod or whatever, and so I just feel like we're just gonna get like this moment where like Necrofa shows up and Anti-Yaga's like, well, I did what I was supposed to. Bye guys. Like just leaves. Says hi Necrofa, good seeing you again. Walks away.
Yeah, she might just bail. Yeah, we determined that she's neutrally aligned, so she doesn't have to stay. I don't think it's absurd to say Necrofa is more powerful than a demigod. She is very powerful. Oh, we're going to talk about her attack, the special attacks, Beatriz. Basically, the Mysticons are able to easily take special attack away Necrofa because she doesn't have the gems still from episode 16, so that's still in play, and it's kind of why Necrofa's really never been a big threat. Is she can't their special attacks just hurt her, so who cares?
See, but like their special attacks are treated as their like most powerful things they can do, and they just use them every episode. There's no real like there's no real like
that's how it works. Yeah.
And I don't know, and also sometimes they're super strong against certain enemies. Other times they're not as strong against enemies. And I'm just thinking, give me some consistency. Like either like tell me where your powers like lie. Where do you rank? Like, is it that you lost to this like nobody villain that's just needed for some random episode because you just really weren't feeling it? But when someone really makes you angry, that's when you like come out. Like, I need some structure to this whole magic situation. It can't just be, but the magic, But
yeah, I think that conceptually the power level of the special attacks is not fulfilling because they can take out Necrofa here, but sometimes cannot take out the monster of the week. I do think it's kind of consistently utilized by the show. It's just one really powerful like close quarters attack, and in situations when that is relevant, it can easily win, like now because they're right next to Necrofa and she didn't have gems. In other situations, it doesn't matter. So, I think there is consistency in execution, but I agree their powers are not the most fulfilling thing to experience, I guess. Yeah,
maybe they're not supposed to be. I don't know. Like
it's just supposed to be simple. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, can we? I was going to say, can we talk about how Necrofa's magic is stopped by wooden crates? Because that really bothered me.
What do you mean she's stopped by wooden crates?
Whatever. So at the beginning and like the end of the episode, how
they're hiding. She's ducking behind a crate.
Yeah.
Okay,
wooden crates, and Necrofa's magic was just like dissipating on the wooden crate. Just wear wooden crates, everybody. You'll be good to go.
Yeah, wood is very powerful in Gemini. Okay. Yeah, in the preview next week, we see Proxima tied up on one pillar. There's a second pillar, and there's the egg is above them. This very direct visual of the prophecy. She's on one pillar, the twin's on the other, and then it activates the egg. It's just so hard for me not to imagine that we're going to get Arcana tied up to the other pillar, Proxima on the other one, and then it doesn't activate, and Necrofa's like, no, what's wrong? And Zarya and crew's like, now's our chance, and they go and untie Proxima, and then Zarya's like touching the other pillar, and then it activates, and then Necrofa's like, it's that one! And then they're like,
spoilers, Dylan.
It didn't happen yet. I'm just like, it's
what's gonna happen.
It's hard for me not to see that happening. Really, we're the only ones that think this. I've been trying to convince everyone else, and it's not us and the people on Discord, but most people think Proxima's the twin. I think most people listening probably think that was. So, I think we'll learn next episode that that's not true, but
Watch her be the twin. And us just be gobsmacked.
It could just be very wrong. The problem is that would just be a very unfulfilling end to the prophecy. There needs to be a twist here.
And we need to see what Arcana saw to believe that Proxima was the twin. I need that more than anything before.
Yeah, I don't know if I need that. It's just the record, and it was the wrong gemstone. I think it can just easily be explained like that. At the very least, we need some explanation, like it was the wrong gemstone. Like, let's just say that. Yeah.
That's what I need. I need explanation. Like, I need to know why you thought exactly that it was Proxima, and then we can move on. So.
Yeah.
So are we still sold on it being Zarya the twin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But, I mean, is it going to be revealed to Necrofa that Arcana is the Dragon Mage? Is that going to be something
that's another question. Oh. Yeah. Identity stuff is hard to pin down. But yeah, I think probably next week we will know who the twin is for real, for definitively, or maybe the week after. But I think that
in 2 weeks we will know.
At the very least, in 2 weeks we'll know. I have a bold. I think I have figured out what's happening in the next several episodes, but I won't say specifics. But I think broadly, my biggest prediction, bold prediction. You guys tell me what your initial reaction is, whether you're buying or selling.
You're crazy. Just kidding.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sold. No.
Yeah, you're about to say in a second. We will be defeating Necrofa in these next 2 episodes.
Oh, please. I want that to happen so bad. I'm so done with her.
Wow, so done with her. Oh my gosh.
So done with her.
Yeah, right. I think that's basically the biggest giveaway is that she has not been built into an all-powerful being. The fact that she never really got the gems. She was so easily defeated here again in this episode that we're talking about. I think that Necrofa is not the ultimate threat.
So then who is?
This is complete speculation. I believe it's Tasma. I think that Tasma...
We're going back to Tasma?
I think Tasma will inhabit whatever dark magic is inhabiting Necrofa, and Tasma will be, like, that's the only thing that makes Tasma's character have purpose. Like, what's the point of Tasma just being the stupid lackey this season, if not for her to either turn good or become the ultimate big bad? So I believe Tasma's the villain of season 3. We'll see. We won't know for a while, but
or it's Proxima, and then that same magic takes Proxima, who's
that's
angry.
Also on the table. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing with Proxima. I have zero clue so I think it could be Proxima. I think it's probably something else, but I really don't know what's happening there.
I'd be more terrified of Proxima going bad than Tasma just becoming the big bad. And that just shows that Tasma's just not capable. She's just not effective and efficient in the way she conducts things.
Or we have like a Tasma Proxima, like, let me teach you how to be bad episode.
Yeah,
like,
that would be so cool.
Ooh, both two villains. Okay, yeah.
Tasma and Proxima joining forces against the Mysticons. It'll be adorable. They can have matching outfits too.
It'll be a
villain group.
Too.
Yeah, let's do that.
What is like Proxima had always like thought that Tasma was like this like idol of like the mages and it was just like really cool. I don't know. I think that there's just I don't know. I want to see a budding friendship between Tasma and Proxima in their like evil lair. I can already see it happen and it would be glorious.
They bond because they both hate Malveron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with Proxima. I don't know what's happening with the Spectral Dragon. Those are the 2 things I'm pretty interested in. But I think we're defeating Necrofa here, so very interested to see how this plays out. That episode 26 description leads you on that path a little bit, but we'll save that because we'll have a week in between the 2 parts. So next week, Twin Stars Unite. Very hype.
Super hype.
Okay, Zarya reveal. Let's do it, please.
Yes.
Ooh. Oh, and is Kitty going to be back? Kitty's got to be back. She's got to be present.
Right. You think
Kitty and Casey.
I think that's I think that, like I said before, Dreadbane will be here in these 2 episodes. Really, Kitty has to be here. Like, what if she wasn't here in 5 episodes, 6 episodes? What's the point of her existing if she's not here for the finale? So
she's gotta be there so she can comfort Zarya when Zarya finds out.
Yes.
We still don't know about Zarya's mom, which is something that really frustrates me about like these filler episodes. Is that they drop this hint of her saying, "I miss my mom," and it's like, well, is she gonna
we can't
find out
know until the reveal happens? Yeah,
exactly. But I just think, oh, this could be a really cool thing of her like bonding with her mom being introduced. And then once the reveal happens, afterward, now we have this like fallback and not have to do like the introduction afterwards and waste time. I don't know.
If Zari is Arcana's twin, it would be her foster mom would be who she thinks is her mom. And then her real mom would be Arcana's mom. Yeah.
Basically, like I wanted that bond between her and her foster mom to like, or her adoptive mom or whatever. I want that bond to have already been established so that we're not like we're like not just I
was gonna say
we'll get this. Don't worry.
It's gonna be a great season 3 episode. Like I already know.
It's happening.
But I wanted more like setup for it in season 2 because in season 2 there's been so much time wasting that I'm just like give me something.
We had to. It's gonna be. It looks like it's a good reveal. It looks like most people aren't seeing this coming. If we weren't just shouting this every week, and I wasn't arguing with people on the Mysticons wiki about this,
we've only been shouting this every week.
it's so we'll see. We'll see if people are surprised. Hoping for great things from Twin Stars Unite next week. Let us know what you thought of our discussion this and what your speculation for next week's episode. Leave comments on overlyanimated.com. on YouTube comments if you're watching on there, and subscribe to not miss any of our future Mysticons podcasts. Any final stuff, April, Beatriz?
I'm so excited for these next 2 episodes.
Yeah, I can't wait. And Kitty better be back.
Yeah, very eager to see Kitty.
And Casey.
We need Moon Boon. We also need, Em and Casey, but really we need Moon Boon. That hasn't been in a while. Yeah. Check overlyanimated.com for everything. Consider supporting us via Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you very much to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Connie, aka Veronica Cucamonga. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John Ryan, Steve, Alex, Andy, and Hugh. Join us on Discord to talk about Mysticons, overlyanimated.com/Discord. If you want to see my full, what I think I figured out the next 4 episodes. If you need to go to the Discord to see it. Control F for Unified, I think I call it Unified Theory. And then you can see, what I think's happening here. Because if so, it's going to be good. And, there's a lot of stuff I haven't even gotten into yet, but, already a lot of stuff getting into on Twin Stars Unite next week. Tune in for that to find out all of our other podcasts at overlyanimated.com. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.